Hey everybody, come on in, here we go. Primal Reset, day 3. Today we are talking about one of the most magical pieces of equipment that you possess, hands. Folks, it totally blows my mind that we have brains and minds as powerful as we do, and hands that are as diversely capable as they are. And one of the things that occasionally makes me a little bit sad is to see how far the capacity of the human hand has fallen. I mean, when you think about it, you can swing a tennis racket, you can play a sonata, you can do all kinds, you can read Braille with a hand. They're so sensitive that you can pick up those little bumps. And the thing about hands is they truly are magic. And there are more things than we realize going on there. And I'm sure if you have just touched someone on the chest, that you can feel something more than just pressure sensitivity as well. So I think that it makes sense to dedicate at least 5 minutes to hand health. And I'm going to go through the absolute best bang for your buck. What a funny term that is. I'm going to go through the best bang for your buck movements that I like to do to give your hands a chance to be very powerful, feel really good, and also be able to actually do magic. And remember, the definition of magic, it just means that you don't know how the trick is done. As soon as you know how the trick is done, then it's just an act or a trick. So it's not magic anymore once you understand how it works. All right, without further ado, there are a lot of ways that you can get it going, but I think that starting out by interlacing your fingers and getting a nice squeeze is a great way to start. And we're going to alternate here. We'll get some heat just like we did yesterday with palming. And what I want you to do is I want you to use your lumbricals. And this won't be on the test later, but you can impress your friends by knowing the muscles that are responsible for squeezing your fingers together. And we're going to work every joint up those fingers. And you know, it's an interesting proposition here, because if you feel like, oh gosh, like 5 minutes is kind of a long time just to be focused on hands, I don't know if your priorities are really in order. I mean, the only things that really give you an edge are brains and hands. Eyes are pretty important as well, but when push comes to shove, you really want to have a healthy set of hands. So we're going to make sure that we do both ways, interlacing, and get all of those knuckles. And you may find that some areas are a little bit more tender, so go ahead and use your hands this way. Give them a little traction, a little extra love. Now, what's fascinating to me is that almost everybody that I've coached has hands. Almost all the coaches I know have hands. People are spending lots of time on a foam roller. You need to have a license just to touch somebody with your hands, but people hardly ever touch themselves. I mean, the whole idea here is that once you get your hands really dialed in, we're going to do some stuff with the thumbnail. Once you get your hands really dialed in, you know, I really only have 2 recommendations before you worry about doing anything else. If you want good hands, rub yourself 5 minutes a day. If you want great hands, rub someone else for at least 5 minutes a day. It's that simple. And as you do it, pay attention, because your hands are full of sensory input. You have tons of motor units in your hands, you have a lot of sensory perception. That means that not only can you do a lot of stuff with your hands, but you can also sense a lot of information with your hands. So when you're rubbing yourself, use your fingers and your hands to listen, not just to be sticks, right? So you can get a whole lot of benefit just from starting the chain of events from your hands, and then you can use those hands to actually figure out, well, okay, if I've got something going on in the knee, I'll start with all of the areas close to it, and then I'll work my way out to both sides. It depends on what your level of competence is with all this, but the bottom line is that you can really gain a great deal of information and you can make a lot of progress using your hands to release tension in the tissue. All right, enough talking. So we're going to rub the hands, and then what I want to do is I'm going to squeeze them together, get a nice stretch this way. So it looks like a little bit of a prayer pose, right? And I'm actually driving my elbows up pretty high. And now we're going to push off of that first knuckle. I call this the ball of the hand because to me it looks like you're doing calf raises, which I always think is pretty funny. So these are your upper calf raises. And then as you get a little bit more control and skill with this movement, we're actually going to be able to make circles. And the nice thing about this is you can do this anywhere. And the more you do it, the better you get. And the more frequently you do it, the more comfortable and relaxed and ready you are naturally going to feel. And if you think about it, there's so much feedback loop going on between the brain and the hands. I mean, what better team than brain and hands, right? That's how you turn your dreams into action, literally. So this is really important stuff here. All right, so we're back to our circular upper calf raises. And then I like to go for a nice figure eight. We're going to lead with the index finger, and then we're going to lead with the pinky finger. And whenever you're doing new movements like this, think about how much you can restrict the movement. So I'll just go ahead and grab my own hand and see where those limitations are, because what you'll notice is as I get more joints involved, yes, I'm going to be able to get a wider scoop with that figure eight motion, but I'm going to be able to kind of gloss over some limitations that I may have. So that figure eight movement is really fantastic, and if you find that you're just using a lot of upper body, that's all right too. It's just now a different exercise. So that figure eight is total magic for the wrists and hands. And then what I like to do is actually step out and get my arm nice and extended. So I'll do a little bit of nerve flossing just to, once again, I'm trying to get the maximum benefit for the least amount of effort and the least amount of time. So I'm going to get my arm nice and extended, and I'm going to do those figure eights over here as well. I'm lengthening all those nerves, and there's not going to be a quiz, but this is going to be mostly median nerve here, radial nerve here, and then if you wanted to hit the ulnar nerve, you would go up here. So your hands are these magical tools, and if you don't use them, they will slowly deteriorate. If all you do is hold a telephone, hold a steering wheel, and just generally not use them, they will eventually become stiff, and that's going to be just another layer of yourself that is now kind of lost, or maybe it's just on the shelf. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to clap. And what's great about this, you can do this either standing or sitting, but you're going to notice that as you increase the tempo of your claps, that you may find there's a difficulty at some stage of the process. So here in front is going to be pretty darn easy. Twisting underneath is going to be a little bit more difficult. And that for me is like the limit of my range of motion. And the idea behind this is you want to stand in one place or sit in one place, and I want you to see how wide of these four quadrants, so up, back, up, forward, that you can hit and maintain a beat with a metronome. And the idea here is that when you try to expand your ability, your mobility, you don't want to be greedy. You know, one of the things I see is just like lots of like really like, oh please, I just want to be more flexible, I want to do the splits. And it's like, yeah, you know, that's a fine goal, but it's better in my opinion to build greater coordination in the range of motion that you have and gently keep boosting up that 80% effort rather than just like cranking on your joints all the time. So you're much better off working and improving that coordination within a range of motion that you can control and then slowly expanding that. All right, so last but not least, we're gonna do some individual isometric. So we'll start with the pinky fingers just for fun here. And we're gonna go one over, one under. And I'm gonna link those up. And I'm gonna pull with a decent amount of tension. I'm gonna bring it all the way down. I'm gonna bring it all the way up. If I can bring it behind, even better. And then we're going to switch those up. So for every finger, you're going to do pronated and supinated, all the way up and down for the ring finger, switch, link that up, pronated and supinated, all the way up for that finger. And here's the deal. I'm simplifying this down so you have a chance to actually do it and keep it nice and contained. But the reality is, like, once you link up like this, I would encourage you to play around with some different angles. You know, the most important thing is that you do it, but once you're doing it, then we want to really see how much we can expand our awareness. And by giving each individual finger some attention, you are not only going to send more neural drive to that individual finger, which is going to make it stronger, but you're also going to be much more aware of what's actually happening in your hands. And that, to me, is hugely valuable. All right, last but not least, if you are interested in doing handstands and you're not really at a 90-degree angle this way, this is a range of motion that you'll definitely want to improve. And so when we're doing or on a wall, just lift them off for a little bit. So do a little calf raise, bink. So then you're rocking back up each time. So you really want to strengthen that range of motion, because if you think about it, you go into a push-up or a handstand, and if your range of motion is only this, then that whole rest of the range of motion is going to be out of control, basically. You're not going to be able to keep the wrist in a biomechanically efficient position, so you're going to cause a little bit more wear and tear and develop some patterns that are a little bit less desirable. And that's enough. You know, once you have all that done, I would highly recommend using your hands to rub your face, ears, neck, and feet next. And if you take anything away from this, it's that the hands and the brain are the best team you got for getting stuff actually done. Your hands and the rest of your body can work together, and you might want to just consider doing a little bit more rubbing with your hands and forearms than you do with a foam roller or a ball. And that's probably the best I can say about it. It just seems like so funny to me that in order to give someone a back rub, you need to have a license in California, where I'm at right now. And there's so much about like, oh, well, use the stick. And believe me, I like to get in there with a stick as well. But I think that a lot of people would really find a great benefit from giving a little more time and attention to their hands and with their hands. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you tomorrow at 7-Eleven. Take care.